the restrictions for non-resident, non-essential travel to Haida Gwaii and applies to all of Haida Gwaii.
Tonight, Haida Gwaii closed. The BC government says no non-residents on the island.
We are the 97th First Nation to successfully pass the land law.
And a historic vote for the Katlo-Deche First Nation in the Northwest Territories. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Activist and artist Ian Campo confessed Wednesday on Twitter to exploiting women. This comes a week after another high-profile First Nations man was accused on social media of physical abuse of a former partner. Jamie Pashagumskum has more.
Ian Campo, activist and founding member of a tribe called Red, also known as DJ Indian, posted a series of tweets Wednesday saying that he used his position as a celebrity to manipulate women. He also said that he cheated on his wife while she had cancer and was pregnant with their child. Campo wrote, "My behavior towards my wife and other women has been completely unacceptable. I abused my position of stature and power in the dynamics of interactions with women. I would use my marriage as a disarming tool." Campo went on to say that he never physically hit anyone, but that he, quote, "used tactics to exploit women's emotional labor and physical comfort for myself, especially from my wife, and that's abuse," he said. Campo called himself a quote-unquote monster, and he told APTN on Thursday that he is, quote, "seeing counselors and meeting with elders regularly." He also said he's sorry again to those he has harmed, and he hopes to relieve some of the pain, quote, "when I know how." Campo's confession comes just a week after Canadian Roots Exchange Executive Director Max Fineday was accused by a former partner of misogyny, transphobia, and physical abuse. In a statement put to social media July 24, Fineday did not admit to the allegations, but said he has asked Canadian Roots Exchange to conduct an internal investigation. He said he will accept all findings that this process may reach. I understand that accountability comes hand in hand with responsibility. The organization said in a statement last week that an investigator is being identified for an external independent investigation, and that Fineday has been put on administrative leave. Fineday also said that he has stepped down from other boards which he was serving on. Since these two cases have become public, other allegations of violence against women have begun to surface on social media, in some cases naming other well-known individuals. APTN will continue to follow these stories. Jamie Pashagumskum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And you can find much more on that story over on our website, aptnnews.ca. The British Columbia government is now banning travel to Haida Gwaii. There has been an outbreak of COVID-19 on the island, and no non-residents will be allowed in. Some tourism operations have opened on Haida Gwaii, but the Haida Nation have been opposed to the move. Lee Wilson has the latest.
Providing an update to the people of Haida Gwaii.
Haida Nation was happy to hear the announcement the province will restrict non-essential travel to the island of Haida Gwaii. They said the pandemic has been a test of reconciliation. Their leadership has been in escalating conflict with tourism fishing operators who have opened against the wishes of the Haida Nation earlier this month, leading to close calls on the water and verbal confrontations between Haida members and lodge boats. Yesterday, in a Facebook post, President of Haida Nation Gagwis stated they will work with the province.
This includes the restrictions for non-resident, non-essential travel to Haida Gwaii and applies to all of Haida Gwaii.
The travel restrictions are a response to a community outbreak where 20 Haida Gwaii residents tested positive for COVID-19. Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General Mike Farnworth put out a media release stating the province is using the powers of the state of emergency to close the island. The release also stated, the province, Northern Health, and First Nations Health Authority are working closely with the Haida Nation and the local governments on Haida Gwaii to respond to this COVID-19 outbreak. Our foremost concern is the health and safety of all residents in Haida Gwaii. We are working together to limit the spread of COVID-19. This order will affect fishing lodges who have opened earlier in July. The province will be sending staff to Haida Gwaii to implement travel restrictions. Public health officials in Haida Nation believe the outbreak is contained, but the risk remains of the numbers moving up.
Right now, it is believed that the current outbreak is reasonably under control, and all the contacts and those who may have been at risk are self-isolating and supports are in place.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Haida Gwaii.
To southern Alberta now, where the body of a teen who went missing on July 22nd has been found. And RCMP have determined the death of Trigon Crow Eagle is a homicide. The remains of the 16-year-old were found by RCMP on the Piikani Nation earlier this week. Trigon Crow Eagle was last seen at home in Brockett near Piikani Nation. Officials say the manner of his death has led them to believe he was murdered. RCMP haven't released any additional information on the incident, but say they will provide an update when more is known. Still in Alberta, one of the men accused of killing 2 Métis hunters will not be released on bail. 31-year-old Anthony Bellido was denied bail in June. He and his father, 56-year-old Roger Bellido, were both charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder in the deaths of Jacob Sansom and Morris Cardinal, who were found shot to death on a rural road near Glendon, Alberta. The 2 men were citizens of the Métis Nation of Alberta. And the accused Anthony Bellido plans to appeal that bail decision. Well, still to come, a big day for a First Nation in the NWT. Stick around. Here's a look at your Saturday weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 22 with showers in Charlottetown, partly cloudy, and 28 in Fredericton. 25 and sunny for Nain and Cartwright. Sunny and 29 for Montreal, 28 with showers in Saguenay. 28 in London, Toronto, and Peterborough. 22 with showers for Thunder Bay and Sioux Lookout. Sunny and 17 for Churchill. 21 under the sun in God's Lake. 25 in Winnipeg, Gimli, and Brandon. 27 for Estevan, Regina, Saskatoon, and North Battleford. 27 in Uranium City, 26 in Buffalo Narrows. Welcome back. It's been an exciting week for a First Nation in the Northwest Territories as they voted for a custom land code which will opt them out of 40 sections of the Indian Act. Charlotte Moore Jacobs was on the ground for the historic vote. Here's that story.
Katladeche First Nation has spoken loud and clear.
We are the 97th First Nation to successfully pass the land law. We're the first in the Northwest Territories.
They want more authority and responsibility over their land. Members of the roughly 700-person reserve near Hay River, Northwest Territories, passed a custom land vote by 95%, 144 to 8.
Congratulations. Yay.
The land code gives KFN power over land, resources, and economic development in a timely manner, without federal oversight from Indian Affairs.
There were certain things that we couldn't do without approval, and then with that approval it takes about 5 to 10 years to get an approval from a minister in order to move forward with anything. But now we can actually, the membership, Chief and Council, and the committee that will be brought together can actually pass it, and that will be less than 5 years, less than a year, less than 6 months. Like, it'll be a lot faster in the process to manage our own.
The 42-page land code document was 3 years in the making.
It was actually Chief Roy Fabian and at the time that came up with this strategy and what they wanted to see for KFM. So, and with the help of the elders. So they took all the, the information from the elders and what they wanted to see for the future.
Everyone here is impacted. Former Chief Roy Fabian may actually be able to own the house he's lived in since 1988.
Like this lot where my house is on was assigned to me by the Band Council, but it's not leased to me. So I don't own this house.
Yeah.
There's these, even though you know, I got a $240,000 home, it, you know, like it's of no value because I can't sell it, I can't do anything with it, unless I can sell it to another band member.
Along with opening up options for housing, KFN will have a bigger say in land protection. Fabian recalls many frustrating times during his 17 years in leadership with environmental mishaps.
Well, for example, one time a helicopter crashed on a reserve. And, you know, we didn't have any say in what happened, you know, for the cleanup or anything. They just, you know, Indian Affairs handled the whole thing.
What's next? A land code committee will recommend laws, resolutions, policies, and practices to Chief and Council on how the land code is to be used.
Treaty land entitlement is some of these traditional areas that are being picked.
The new code comes at a crucial time as KFN is in court for land entitlement to gain back traditional territory they were shorted when they became a reserve in 1974.
Some people were kind of saying, well, it's a little bit fast, but it isn't fast. It's what is needed and required for Katloreche First Nation. Again, we've been under the Indian Act for years. You know, Canada put this on us, and we want to get out and, you know, run our own reserve and manage our own reserve the way we want to, how our elders want to see it, and make sure that we take care of all the animals, the resources, and our people.
Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Katloreche First Nation.
Well, we always want to hear what you have to say about anything you've seen here. Here's how you can continue that conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. Still to come, we sit down with the Minister of Indigenous Services. That's next after this short break. Here's a look at the rest of your Saturday weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. Sunny and 30 in High Level, 29 in Fort McMurray. 34 with showers for Medicine Hat, 31 and rain in Lethbridge. Sunny in Campbell River with a high of 25, 24 in Victoria. 28 with rain for Fort Nelson and Prince George. 23 with showers in Old Crow, rain, and 22 for Whitehorse. Sunny and 32 for Wrigley and Norman Wells. 7 with rain in Sax Harbor, 28 in Colville Lake. 21 in Chesterfield, 23 for Cambridge Bay. 10 with showers in Resolute, 15 with rain in Iqaluit. Welcome back. It's been a while since Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller has been available to the media to answer questions about the latest on COVID-19 and systemic racism in policing. I'll leave it to Todd Lamoran to track Minister Miller down. He sat down with the minister earlier today in our Ottawa studio.
Thanks, Winnipeg. And Minister Miller, welcome to APTN News.
Well, thanks for having me, Todd.
First off, I'm going to ask you, Indigenous leadership has largely been praised for its COVID response. Infection and death rates are much lower than Canadian averages. So is this proof that they're more than capable now to control their own health care in the future? And should that mean an overhaul of the First Nations and Inuit health branch?
Well, it's an excellent question, Todd, and it plays into how self-determination is really operationalized when it comes to some of the basic things in life, which is the health and well-being of the peoples. And you know, one of the specific items in my mandate letter is working towards distinctions-based health legislation, which, as you can appreciate, will vary from community to community, and that will require, and particularly a sobering discussion, and I would say a more accelerated discussion coming out of at least the first wave of COVID, knowing that we have to stay vigilant. And while I do appreciate the numbers and the work that's been done, it's something we keep an eye on, knowing how imperfect that data is, particularly when you try to parse out the off, quote unquote, the off reserve rates, which is harder to discern. Leadership, health leadership has played an exceptional role in ensuring their people stay safe. But to your greater point, which is self-determination over health, it is I believe a basic right. And science proves that the medical outcomes are more positive when people control their own healthcare systems. So this is an engagement that is going to take some time to elaborate over the coming months, but it is something our government, and indeed my mandate letter, reflects a dedication to.
You mentioned you don't have a good picture of what the data is. You admitted that a couple of months ago, back in May. What has been done to improve that, and maybe possibly will it be ready for a second wave?
Well, Indigenous Services Canada, recognizing that data was imperfect, and brought home to most through the exceptionally alarming rate of infection that we saw hit La Loche and the corresponding incredible response to it that is essentially stamped out COVID in that area. Those numbers would not necessarily be reflected in what we tally, but yet they are Indigenous. They are subject to the same vulnerabilities that Indigenous peoples on reserve would experience. And this is also compounded in urban areas where you have an overlap of jurisdictions, provincial providers or territorial providers, and getting simply the raw data and piecing it together. We've funded at Indigenous Service Canada various initiatives through experts. Ms. Smiley was one of the more noted ones, but who will be yielding results, I believe, preliminarily shortly, that will try to paint a better picture, specifically as to what's happening in a more off-reserve or urban setting. But that is something we recognize as a government to force a better look at disaggregated data for two things: to respond to the current wave, the next wave, and also ultimately to respond better to public health policy. And this phenomenon exists equally for racialized communities across Canada, and it's something our government recognizes the challenge, but also is willing to assume it and work towards getting that disaggregated data.
Okay, I want to switch topics here. And remind you that back in June, after the police shooting of Chantal Moore, you said you were pissed off at how this could happen during a wellness check. Now, the Public Safety Committee has been studying systemic racism in the RCMP, and some of that study may end up being amendments to Bill C-3, the Act to reform the RCMP. But is that enough?
Well, I think what you'll see over the next short, medium, and long term, Todd, and part of what it goes on at committee has to be reproduced in other settings of engagement with community leadership. Leadership will tell you that this has been studied time and time again, and the recommendations are clear. One of the paths forward, which has been stated by the Prime Minister and Minister Blair, is treating policing in First Nations as an essential service. In tandem with the reform of the RCMP, we've had a lot of discussions about defunding, but the real discussion is ensuring that that people are treated with respect, that institutions in government that are subject to systemic racism, and the RCMP is not the only one. There are others, but they do have exceptional powers, and they must be exercised with extreme caution. So reviewing the spectrum of the use of force, having more respectful engagement with communities. These are all things that have been recommended in the past, and we have to ensure that they are reproduced on the ground.
Finally, Minister Miller, there haven't been any updates lately on the lifting of boiled water advisories. March 2021, which is the deadline, is not that far away. Are you still on target to meet the Prime Minister's promise to have them all removed by then?
Todd, we are moving aggressively to lift those boiled water advisories. These are, they've taken on a political dimension, but they hold a very human dimension, ensuring that communities have safe access to water. This is something our government and our department in particular is moving on. I've asked my department, despite COVID, despite communities shutting down, to continue to move aggressively. Obviously, that is done in tandem and in partnership with local leadership that is as we are, working at breakneck speed to ensure people stay safe. Any infrastructure build, as critical in nature as water and getting new infrastructure builds in, takes time, takes deliberation. There are wide variances that cause delays, and sometimes actually we are surprised by how we can accelerate things. So we're moving. I will have a better sense of things once we are able to get a sense of how much we were able to do during the summer. Things are moving positively. In the next month or so, we'll probably have a number of lifts, which is encouraging. But this is something, and regardless of any deadline, this is something that will need a long-term solution going forward. March, or at least the spring of 2021, is a very important political deadline. It holds immense value for this government, but it is something that we will have to be dedicated towards the long term. And we not only recognize that, but we hear that from leadership. And it is something we'll continue to do in partnership with Indigenous peoples.
Just to finally, again, what I'm hearing is that maybe in a month or two, you may definitely know whether you can meet that deadline or not.
Well, like I said, I've asked my team to continue to assess every single project by project, engage with community leadership like they've never done before, knowing that the challenges of COVID and communities that have literally shut down access to and sometimes departure from community, except for absolutely essential services. These are factors that we are not blind to, but it is something that we consider water essential. Indeed, the communities do as well, and we'll continue to move aggressively. And if we need to deploy more resources to ensure that we meet our goal, that is something we are prepared to do as well. But again, it is very much a long-term engagement of this government. It should not be a partisan thing. It should be a long-term engagement of every government. And that is sort of the legacy we want to leave, to ensure that no community is left without safe and clean water.
Okay, Minister Miller, I want to thank you for spending some time to speak to us.
Thank you, Todd.
Now back to the studio.
Thanks, Todd. We also want to congratulate Todd Lamarand. 20 years ago today, Todd took to the airwaves for APTN News. He has performed a number of roles over those years as a reporter and with Investigates, and as the producer and host of Nation to Nation. From all of us at APTN News, happy birthday, Todd. And while Pride Week events are mostly cancelled in Vancouver because of the pandemic, the Vancouver Pride Society unveiled an art walk called Take a Walk on the Art Side. 6 large-scale art pieces by local Two-Spirit, trans, and queer artists are being showcased, including the work of local Indigenous artist Morgan Asoff, who pays tribute to MMIWG with her piece Butterflies in Spirit. We now leave you with images of those artworks. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.